I was wrong. Virtuoso is apparently one of the best builds for soloing any content in PvE as a Mesmer. Let me prove it to you in this video. Be sure to watch the whole video because this build is actually quite intricate. In my tier list from a few days ago regarding open world builds, I mentioned that Virtuoso is a decent build if it can use the Jade products. But as soon as the fights go longer than the boons from this last, it falls off drastically. That's why I put it into C tier. Be sure to check out the tier list in the top right hand corner. But I was completely wrong on that. And that's why in this video I want to reclaim the position of Virtuoso and put Virtuoso with this build at least in A tier. So let's jump right in. So we're going for Power Virtuoso. So for gear, it's a little bit different. We want to reach 100% crit rate. To achieve that, we go with full Commander's gear on the armor and Superior Rune of Fireworks, which just gives us a lot of boon duration. On our trinkets, however, we want to go full Diviner. And sadly, that's not the only gears that we have. We also go for Assassin weapons. Yes, I know it's a little bit confusing, but we have to do that to achieve 100% crit rate and almost 100% boon duration. We'll get to that in a second while. We also have to run Superior Sigil of Accuracy on both weapons. And we use Superior Sigil of Strength on the spear, and on our dagger sword we use, of course, Accuracy and Sigil of Celerity. So it's a little bit of a complicated gear setup, yes, I know that, but it has to achieve that stats. And then, lastly, we use Relic of Securus, just for the really strong healing effects while you're under the effect of Fury and you crit. So you have to upkeep 100% Fury, and every time you crit with 60% crit rate, before the Fury, you get 4% of every single strike that you do if you don't have weakness. You will heal for that. And that's actually quite a large healer over the course of time. That single-handedly keeps you alive. For Consumables, you want to go, of course, with Superior Sharpening Stones. And, that's very important here, you want to go with Blades of Coq au Vin with Salsa, or the minus 10% incoming damage one. Both are totally valid. I like to go with the lifesteal one just because we are not having any healing power in this build. So even more chance to heal makes a lot of sense because every single attack from us will be a crit, so we proc that on cooldown. But the important part here is we get power and not ferocity, but power and precision, because Mesmer is so hard to crit cap on, therefore we need the precision as well. So for traits, it's very important. We go with Domination, Chaos and Virtuoso. So let's start with Domination. Domination is the trait line that allows us to play a power build that has somewhat decent vulnerability application. Because it's very important in a solo build to have decent vulnerability application. And we get that by inflict vulnerability when you interrupt the foe. Acing inflicts also more vulnerability, and you get more damage increase. Power damage for each stack of vulnerability. You might ask, yes, why I can't interrupt foes that have a Defiance bar. That's correct, but this trait blocks in a 3-second interval anyway. So you don't have to interrupt them. Still apply the vulnerability with those skills. Then Shatter skills inflict vulnerability. That applies as a Virtuoso to all your shatters. So all your shatters, every single blade that hits will apply vulnerability. Really good, so you have easy way of upkeeping it. Then, deal increased strike damage to foes with a lower health percentage than you. That should mostly be the case because you try to always be at 100%. As soon as you get a hit, you have to heal back up, but that will be quite fast. So every time you're getting hit, you heal up and you have 100%. So every time you will probably have the 10% up. If you need crazy amounts of boon removal, you can also go for that. But it's actually not necessary because there is no fight in the game that needs that much boon removes. But if you really needed to, every single blade would be a boon removal then. And then lastly, that's the baseline boon removal that you have. Every single CC that you do will remove 2 boons from Defiant foes. It's really important. And it gives you just straight up 15% damage increase to you and your illusions to foes without boons, which is mostly the case, especially because of this trait. You remove any time they get boons, remove them. Then lastly, we have Chaos. Chaos gives you regeneration when you use a healing skill. Yeah, not that crazy. Then Shatter skill 2 also gives Chaos Aura. And while you have Chaos Aura, you get more condition damage. Not that important. but the Chaos Aura can help you with some boons. Then lastly, and that's the important one here, gain concentration and expertise while affected by regeneration. So the expertise actually is helpful on a power build as well, because it will increase the duration of your vulnerability, so that the vulnerability will stay for longer. But the concentration helps you to have almost 100% boon duration. And you can upkeep that 100% of the time, because this trait will proc 100% if you cast your healing skill off cooldown. You don't have to do that, because we come to that in a second, but each shatter will also give you protection. And this protection is actually, and that's the important part, scaling with the amount of blades you use. Not clones, but the blades. So you can have permanent protection using this trait, because you spam your shatters with 5 blades. It's really easy. Then gaining Chaos Aura with this trait, and you use a shatter skill too, gives boons to allies, which is also including you. So whenever you use your F2, you give yourself Chaos Aura, which gives yourself regen, which increases your concentration and expertise. So you see where this is going. And then lastly, very important best trait here in Chaos, you get amazing boon access. With this trait alone, you can permanently upkeep Fury, Vigor, Might, and you get even some nice resistance on your F5. And very importantly, every single shatter will give you stability for 9 seconds. So you almost have permanent stability if you don't get CC continuously. It's really, really good. And lastly, we have Virtuoso. So Virtuoso gives you access to this blades, so the range skills that have a cast time mostly. And then you get some nice vulnerability application with your blades. And your blade song is really important. It's really strong. And then lastly, that's the big one here actually, you get more crit chance from your Fury. So that's really important, because that allows you to crit cap on this build, because otherwise you would having such a hard time to crit cap. And now gain ferocity based on the portion of vitality, so always go for the Jadebot core tier 10 if you can afford it, because that gives you more ferocity and more life. Just straight up the best option. So really, really strong minor trait. And now we get to the important part. Stock blades automatically while in combat. Every 3 seconds you get blade. Really, really good. And then when you use a blade song above the blade threshold, you front blades. So when you use 5 blades, you should always go for 5. Does not matter which blade song you use. Every time you have 5, you should use a blade song. You get 2 blades back. That helps you with your consistent blade renewal. And then blade attacks deal more damage, 10% more damage, very good. Then we have this trait that allows you to upkeep quickness and fury and regen. It's really overloaded, really, really good. Blocking or dodging attack grants boons. Every 3 seconds you get almost double the amount of time, so 6 seconds almost, quickness and fury and regen. So you don't need to get that actually permanently, because you have 200%, so to say, uptime of this trait. And now you asked, okay, I will not be able to dodge every single attack because I only have 2 dodges and maybe a skill, but you can also block. And now this trait comes in. Every blade song grants you H's, and therefore you almost every single hit that an enemy does will either be dodged by you or will be blocked by you if it's possible to do so. And this will instantly block this trait. So as you can see in the background, you spam your shatter skills, all of them, because they give you boons, they give you a lot of damage and healing, and they give you all the H's, and then the block gives you the boons again. So it's a really, really cool synergy in the build. Also regarding your rotation, it's typically you should always focus on Blades on Harmony first and use your Phantasmal Swordsman, as well as your Unstable Bladestone and Blade Call off cooldown just for damage. And you can use the Illusionary Riposte to get another block and evade, or if you need the vulnerability, you can also use it for the daze. On the spear, it's really easy. You always do for 2 and use it in conjunction with the Phantasmal Lancer to get 2 of them, which not only removes wounds but gives you more daggers and also more damage. The 3 skill is used to evade and cleanse some conditions. And then the 5 is either used for a stun or for a teleport that resets your 2 skill. So that's the typical combo. 2, 4, 5, 2, 4. If you reset the 4 with your healing skill. I would say most of the time I would not do that. I would just rely on the passive heal, because If you really want to min-max, you could use the healing skill for damage, but I feel like if you're in a solo situation, oftentimes the healing from the passive is better, and therefore I would leave it up. Then, of course, we have 1000 cuts is the best damage option. If you need, for whatever reason, a lot of CC, you can also go for Signet of Humility, but I think the damage is immense and you have a lot of CC baked into the kit as well. Then we have Psychic Force. This is actually a really good skill in PvE, or in any game mode actually. It's a stun break, and it's a CC that is quite nice CC damage, but it also upkeeps almost 100% Fury and gives you almost 100% 8 stacks of Might. So that's actually really, really good, because you might struggle a bit with Might upkeeping without this skill, but with this skill, it's really easy. And the important part here is you have Sigil of Celerity on your dagger sword. So this sigil has a 20-second internal cooldown. So always use your Psychic Force, which is also 20-second cooldown, on your dagger sword set to permanently proc the sigil and be sure that everything works out perfectly. And then lastly, we have Arcane Theory, which not only gives you quickness for 7 seconds, but also applies some soft CC and Steel Spoons, but more importantly, transfer conditions. So when you get conditions, you can use that to actually increase your damage, or just cleanse the conditions off. And then lastly, I use Signet of Illusions, because I feel like I actually can get a use out of it, because I spam all my shatters, and with 5 blades, even then I get them on cooldown quite frequently. And if as soon as every one of them is on cooldown, I can reset them with Signet of Illusions to get more value, to maybe get a double distortion going if you need invulnerability. It's really, really good. Of course, use the F5 of cooldown because it gives you resistance, and the F3 gives you some nice fury and also stun. F4 is the nice invulnerability, gives you also even more stability if you need it. F2 is always really important for the vigor, for the chaos aura, for the regen, for the damage. And then lastly, of course, the F1 is just very good damage as well as the might application. If you want to swap out some stuff, I would say you can go for Arcane Theory if you don't need most of the time you actually kept quickness without this. So you could go for Blink if you need a Blink. You can go for even more stability with the mantra here. You can go for another invulnerability skill. You can go for a Reflect. You can go, if you really need another stun break, you could go for Mirror Images because it gives you 2 blades. Helps also with the damage. So there are many options actually. And you could also swap Signet of Illusions, of course. Those two, I would say, are very easily swappable. As well as the Psychic Force, actually, all of them are swappable. So it's not completely baked into the kit that you have to run those skills. So it's really flexible, really helpful for a lot of situations. And yeah, that's the build. You can see in the background, it's extremely strong. It has immense boon application, even though you're Virtuoso, which typically can't do that. But in this solo build, you actually can, and the survivability is really good. And it's extremely fun to play. I have to be honest, I did not see that coming, but I created this monstrosity, and I would say it's definitely A tier, if not higher, because it's so fun to play. It's so strong, and be sure to give it a try. And I hope you liked this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.